In the dim glow of the chandelier hanging over the antique oak table in my grandmother's century-old Victorian home in Springfield, Illinois, I sat there, fork poised midair, as my cousin Alex leaned back in his chair with that smug grin, telling his latest fling. "She's just resentful. Always has been." The words hung in the air like smoke from the forgotten candles, and I felt the old ache twist in my chest, the one I'd buried for 3 long years. But this wasn't the time for tears or outbursts. No. I'd learned from the best. Silence could be sharper than any knife. With a steady hand, I reached into my bag and slid out the folded property deed, placing it gently on the table like a final chess move. Their laughter choked off instantly, faces paling as realization dawned. This was no impulse. This was the culmination of betrayal, quiet endurance, and a revenge forged in the fires of family greed. My name is Emily Thompson, and at 35, I'd become the family's unspoken punchline, not the cousin with the string of failed marriages or the one drowning in gambling debts, but the one who'd chosen quiet reliability over flashy chaos. In their eyes, that made me the real tragedy. Emily's still plugging away at that same gig, Aunt Margaret would sigh at every holiday barbecue, her tone laced with that faux pity that stung like salt in a wound. As if my steady role in the legal department at Horizon Realty Group, handling title searches and estate filings day in, day out, was some kind of defeat. I drove a reliable Toyota Camry I'd paid off years ago, rented a modest 2-bedroom in the suburbs, and saved every penny while they paraded their financed autos and vacation selfies on social media. The irony burned. They chased illusions of success, racking up debts for appearances, while I spent my weekends at Grandma Eleanor's, helping her organize her pill bottles and sharing cups of chamomile tea as she recounted tales from the Great Recession that had taught her the value of quiet resilience. "You're the only one who truly gets it, she'd whisper, her frail hand clasping mine, eyes sharp despite the pain. The rest? They're eyeing the square footage, not the soul in these walls." She wasn't wrong. When her arthritis worsened and the cancer diagnosis hit 3 years back, I was the one rearranging my shifts to drive her to chemo in Peoria, sleeping on the stiff recliner in her hospital room during those endless nights when the pain meds barely touched her agony. Meanwhile, Alex, the family's golden boy with his slick real estate license and perpetual tan, only materialized when he needed her to co-sign a loan or just check out this investment opportunity. I'd catch him in the hallways, phone glued to his ear, whispering about maximizing assets. "Where's the rest of the crew?" I'd asked her one stormy evening, as thunder rattled the old leaded windows and she fumbled with her 4-line. "Oh, Emily," she'd rasped, a weary smile cracking her lips. "They're circling the wagons, waiting for the dust to settle on my grave." Her bluntness should have jolted me. But I'd seen the signs, the hushed conversations at Thanksgiving about her will, the way Aunt Margaret kept dropping hints about how that big old house is a burden now, and Alex's not-so-subtle suggestions that she downsize to an assisted living spot so they could help manage the property. They never suspected she'd already seen through their facade. After she passed, I played the part they'd assigned me, the overlooked relative, nodding along at the funeral as they divvied up imaginary shares in their minds. I let them scheme. Let Alex boast about his developer buddies who'd turn this relic into a goldmine. Let my own mother lament how sad it was that the house might have to be sold to keep things fair. Fair. The word tasted like ash. For 3 years, I'd maintained the mask, showing up to potlucks with store-bought potato salad, smiling through their jabs about my simple life, never hinting at the estate attorneys I'd consulted in secret or the paperwork I'd filed under the radar. While they gossiped about my supposed loneliness, I was transforming Grandma's final act of trust into a shield and a weapon. Tonight, at this fall equinox gathering in the home they all lusted after, The tension simmered like a pot about to boil over. I'd parked my Camry in the back alley, out of sight, letting them assume I'd hitched a ride or taken the bus again. Poor, predictable Emily. The driveway filled with their gleaming SUVs, my mother's fresh-off-the-lot Mercedes. Uncle Harold's pickup with the realtor magnets slapped on the sides. I arrived early, helping set the table, enduring the air kisses and the once-overs. "You made it." "Han," Mom cooed, already scanning the room as if appraising it for auction. "Traffic okay?" "Fine," I murmured, arranging the silverware Grandma had polished every Sunday. Then came the parade, Aunt Margaret and Uncle Harold with their boutique wines and veiled complaints about upkeep costs. Their daughter, Sophie, fresh from her latest wellness retreat flop, dragging her influencer boyfriend along to network, but Alex stole the show, rolling up in a rented Porsche. His arm candy, let's call her Brooke, this week's model in stilettos that clicked like accusations on the hardwood floors. "The prodigy arrives," Mom whispered, not bothering to lower her voice. Alex hugged me with that salesman squeeze, still grinding at Horizon. When I close this next deal, I'll hook you up with some overflow work." He winked, as if benevolence flowed from him like cheap cologne. Dinner dragged on with a familiar script, Aunt Margaret regaling us with her yoga cruise anecdotes, Uncle Harold droning about market trends, my divorced parents orbiting each other like wary planets at opposite ends of the table. The air thickened with unspoken resentments, the clink of forks masking the undercurrent of calculation. "So, Emily," Aunt Margaret pivoted, her smile too bright. "Any special someone on the horizon?" I sliced into my roast with measured calm. "Not right now." "Well, honey, sometimes you gotta put yourself out there, apps. Mixers. That legal world can't be a hotbed of romance." Brooke chimed in, swirling her Merlot. "My brother's single, he's in transition career-wise, but super chill. You two might vibe." "Nah. M's too selective," Alex cut in, chuckling. "Let's the perfect slip-away chasing good enough." The table tittered, a ripple of amusement that prickled my skin. I sipped my iced tea, letting the moment pass like so many before. But Uncle Harold steered us into treacherous waters. "This place is prime real estate, neighborhood's booming. That flipper down the block fetched 7 figures. It's a shame letting it gather dust," Aunt Margaret added, her eyes darting. "Grandma would have wanted it to lift us all up." Alex puffed up. "I've got feelers out with investors. Once probate clears, we could split a tidy sum, set everyone straight." "Any word from the lawyers?" Mom asked, all eyes turning to me. "The family's token legal eagle. It can drag on," I said evenly. "Complications arise." Alex's brow furrowed. "What complications?" "Will's crystal clear, equal shares to her kids. House liquidated." I set down my utensil, the room's pulse quickening. Funny how assumptions bite back. Grandma had her own ideas. The shift was electric, forks hovered, breaths held. I rose, excusing myself to fetch dessert, Grandma's pecan pie recipe, baked fresh that morning. But as I served slices, the undercurrents surged, Alex texting furiously under the table, whispers about timelines. He'd had a few bourbons by then, loosening the reins on his tongue. "You know what's hilarious?" he slurred, jabbing his fork my way. "We're all fretting the estate. But at least we've got skin in the game. Sophie's hustling her retreats. Aunt Marg's got her side gigs." I chewed slowly, unflinching. But Emily? Stuck in that cubicle for 8 years. Still leasing that shoebox apartment on Elm. "When we cash out, maybe you can finally plant roots instead of flushing rent down the drain." Alex, Aunt Margaret half protested, smirking. "Just keeping it real," he pressed, turning to Brooke. "She's resentful. You know? Can't stand seeing the rest of us thrive." The word resentful echoed, a gauntlet thrown. Pitying glances darted my way. Mom averted her eyes. Dad scrolled his phone. The betrayal stung fresh. But I'd armored myself in patience. Resentful, I echoed. Voice steady as I stood and retrieved the envelope from my coat in the hall. The room hushed as I returned, laying it on the table. An apt word. Alex. Lighten up. Don't take it personal. But his grin faltered as I opened the flap. You're spot on, I was Grandma's go-to. And she made it count. Uncle Harold barked. What's this nonsense? I slid out the first paper. 3 years ago. While you were hauling your attorney buddy to her bedside during her morphine haze. Trying to rewrite her wishes. She'd already locked it down. Lies. Alex bolted up. I never. November 12th. 2023. 2:30 p.m. You brought in Mark Reynolds while I stepped out for her meds. The charge nurse noted it, odd for family business, with a semi-conscious patient. Aunt Margaret blanched. We were helping sort affairs. By pushing a will that cut me out, I revealed the affidavit. From Nurse Elena Ramirez, witnessed coercion on an impaired elder. The air grew thick. Suffocating. This changes nothing, Uncle Harold blustered. The original will stands. It does, I agreed. Producing the next document. Executed with her true counsel. Patricia Hale. On October 1st, 2023, weeks before your stunt. Legal. Witnessed. Sealed. Mom whispered. What does it say? Meeting Alex's glare. I replied. She left the house to the one who treated her as kin. Not collateral. Chaos erupted, shouts. Chairs screeching. Accusations flying like shrapnel. You twisted her mind. Alex roared. No, I countered. Voice rising above the storm. I held her through the nausea. Changed her sheets at 3 a.m. Relived her stories without rolling my eyes. That's not scheming, that's devotion. We'll fight this, Aunt Margaret snarled. No court, the deed transferred a year ago, I interjected. Unveiling it. I own it outright. Silence crashed down. Heavy as lead. They pawed at the papers. Denial crumbling. The truth, I pressed. It crystallized the day she called me to her bed. Lucid amid the haze. Fetch Patricia Hale, she said, her old sorority sister turned estate lawyer. Off your radar. I'd questioned her usual guy. But she shot back. That shark's in Alex's pocket. Hounding me weekly. That afternoon. She spilled it all, the persistent calls. The pre-drafted docs. The veiled threats of nursing homes if she didn't align with family needs. She knew the plot, the group texts petitioning her portfolio. The developer bids. The off-the-record huddle where they floated declaring her unfit. Concerned about her judgment, Aunt Margaret had claimed. Her savings. You mean, I retorted. Pulling my phone. Care for the audio? Alex's voice crackled from the speaker. The old lady's fading fast if we nudge her to sign. We flip by summer. She won't clock it. Brooke edged away. Horror etching her features. Out of context, he yelped. Is the bit about dosing her tea for compliance contextual too? Or hiring aides to distract me during your raids? We never followed through. Aunt Margaret shrieked. But you schemed it before your dying mother. Treating her like a hurdle to fortune. The recording droned on, Mom griping about my clinginess, Uncle Harold tallying appraisals, their venom poisoning the air where Grandma had nurtured us for decades. She summoned Patricia that night, I continued. Made it bulletproof. Saying, if they're vultures, let them scavenge elsewhere. You poisoned her, Uncle Harold accused. Deflated. Your greed did that. I gathered the files. She penned letters for each, detailed reckonings. They'll hit your mailboxes Monday. Certified. Letters? Mom's voice cracked. She had time during treatments to reflect. Pausing at the archway. I added. Her directive, host one last gathering. See if love surfaced over ledgers. In 3 hours? Zilch on her wit. Her grit, just bottom lines. Unfair, Aunt Margaret murmured. When did you last tender plot? I do weekly. With lilies. My throat tightened. She trusted I'd cherish this as home. Not holdings. Alex surged forward. But I retreated to the kitchen. Their frenzy muffled. I'd prepped for this, every angle. My phone pinged, from my contractor pal. Lisa. Team ready for Tuesday. Proceed? Full steam, I replied. The remodel wasn't vanity, it was strategy. For 3 years. They'd exploited the place, Alex's client soirees billed as historic venue exclusives, Aunt Margaret's wine tastings staining heirloom rugs, Uncle Harold's illicit Airbnb listings funneling cash. All logged. All ammunition. From a drawer. I fetched the second dossier, printouts. Transfers. Leases. Emily, Mom appeared. Eyes red-rimmed. Let's reason. Reason? Like when you trashed my stagnant life at Easter. Unaware I overheard from the hall? Or dubbing me your biggest letdown to Cousin Beth? Alex barreled in. My counsel says adverse possession. We've used it freely. I chuckled. That needs hostile claim. Not my tacit nods. I fan letters. Each favor, you begged, plant watering. Alarm checks, I documented as owner granted access. You owned it. Assumed otherwise? Your error. The papers detailed abuses, scuffs from parties. Pilfered china from rentals. Family. Aunt Margaret wailed. How? Like you did to Grandma and me. Dad materialized. What's the ask? Cash. Respect. Scarce commodity here. I sealed the file. Leave now. Stay gone unless summoned. Contest. And fraud charges roll. Trespass. Embezzlement. Felonies stack up. The kitchen stilled. Save the wall clock's relentless tick. But comply. And I bury it for her sake. Alex's phone squawked legalese. Panic evident. You've taped us, Sophie noted softly. Selectively, for safeguard. Grandma's tip, insurance against opportunists. Defeat settled like fog, posture sagged. Fire extinguished. Remodel kicks off Tuesday, I announced. Her den becomes my study, gardens revived to her vision. With what funds? Alex sneered. Your paycheck. Who says I'm scraping by? Vacated the rental 2 years back, resided here discreetly. Stewarding what you eyed for demo. Shock rippled. They'd missed my subtle presence, garage lights, tended lawns. And she didn't stop at the house, stocks from Grandpa's inventions. Offshore accounts you'd hunted vainly. In the dining room. Pie congealed on plates, a fitting metaphor for their unfinished feasts of ambition. Clear up by 9:30, I commanded. Phone in hand. This reverts to sanctuary. To underscore. I fetched Grandma's journal from the sideboard. Her words on you? They recoiled. June 5th. 2022, Harold measured rooms mid-visit, thinks I'm blind. Uncle Harold slumped. July 18th, Margaret's group trashed my heirloom linens, just cloth, she laughed. She sobbed. August 29th, Alex airbnbs my sanctuary, $600/night for intruders. Alex flushed. October 4th, Mom spread dementia rumors for leverage. Enough, Mom begged. Her fave, February 10th. 2023, Emily fixed the leaky faucet. Shared story sans distraction. She sees me. Not my equity. This is vicious, Dad murmured. Vicious is ditching her chemo run for golf, deeming her a drag, eyeing her end as payday. From a cabinet. I produced unsent cards, her raw truths withheld for peace. She shielded you. Even fading. We were clueless, Aunt Margaret claimed. Indifferent, worse. The drafts showed, wills revised thrice. Portions dangled for genuine care. Revoked amid manipulations. Her final quip, I'm gifting you home. Not house, 'cause you grasped the gap. Brooke rose abruptly. We're out. Alex. Wait, no. This is toxic. She eyed me respectfully. Sorry for the resentment dig, I misread. They banked on that. They shuffled out. Masks shattered. But one twist remained, in the den. Labeled gifts awaited. Uncle Harold, a calculator for your endless tallies. Aunt Margaret, stained cloth echoes your dismissals. Alex, empty wallet, your hollow pursuits. Mom, faded photo of us at my law school grad last Pride you showed. They grasped the symbols. Grandma's hand evident. She orchestrated this, Uncle Harold realized. With me. To expose if greed eclipsed grief. What did she gift you? Alex queried. From my pocket, her locket. Note inside for one who values essence over appraisals. 9:30 struck, they filed out. A procession of the humbled. Aunt Margaret paused. Did she despise us? Loved you, that amplified the hurt. Uncle Harold grumbled threats. But his wife hushed him. Parents departed wordless, Sophie slunk away. Lesson etched. Aunt Margaret hissed regrets I'd rue in isolation, like grandma's. Alone but for the granddaughter who cherished her, I countered. Alex lingered with Brooke. But she bolted. He knocked later. Defeated. Brooke dumped me, said no to a Grandma Connor. Silence. Grandma heard me call her old hag? And more. He winced. Thought I was savvy, turns out. Heartless. She likened you to her uncle. The farm swindler. I didn't know you were schmoozing while I supported. License gone. Your call, vanish. Or face fallout. He nodded. You're not resentful, just finished. He drove off. Finality in his taillights. The house sighed in relief. Texts buzzed friends. Peers noting Alex's listings vanish. By dawn, ripples would spread. I uncorked her hidden Dom Perignon 4 when it settled. Toasting her photo, we unveiled them. Grandma. Champagne savored. I toured rooms brimming with true legacies. Tomorrow, locks swapped. Rebirth begun. Tonight, freedom from facades. The price of truth paid in full. Not bitter, just liberated.